Hi friends, and welcome to Decorate Your Life, Scrapbooking and Card Making. In today's tutorial, I'm sharing how you can make this stunning mini album using your items from Graphic 45. I'll be providing you with a full supply list and measurements list in the area underneath this video, and also visit my blog for a full pictorial. So for this mini album, I pulled from some of my favorite Graphic 45 collections. I pulled a 12 by 12 sheet from the Flutter collection, and 1, 2, 3, 4, these two are the same, from the Floral Shoppe collection 12 by 12 paper pack. Now we're also going to use 6 of the Graphic 45 regular size tags in black, and we're going to use the Graphic 45 regular tag die to make our tag inserts. Now for our tag inserts, I used the Graphic 45 Flutter collection, and these are the colors that I will be using in my tags. And now for the pages, I'm going to use the Graphic 45 journaling cards from the Flutter collection. Okay, so I've done much of the preliminary work here, and let me show you what I have thus far. We do have 6 pocket pages. Actually, there's 5 here, and I'm going to show you the measurements and how I come about it with this piece over here. These are so super easy to make, and I will go ahead and leave you with a full measurements list and supply list in the area underneath this video and also in my blog. And I also have the journaling cards have already been matted, and I have already added the inserts to my tags, and so they go right along there. And I have already trimmed the chipboard for the mini album, so that's that. And over here I have 2 pieces of black cardstock, and these we are going to trim to make the cover for our chipboard. And of course, I did ink around the edges. I used the Graphic 45 in Photogenic. And so, yeah, the blue pieces are the only pieces that I inked. When I inked these, it was just to cover up that white area, you know, that white edge that you get whenever you trim the paper. That is all the inking that I did, because if you look at it closely, there's no antiquing around here. It's just on this part. So we're going to make 6 pocket pages. We're going to take a piece of black cardstock, and we are going to trim it to 9 by 7. And then we're just going to fold it right down the middle. And if you need that measurement, the middle is 4.5 inches. Once you have trimmed and folded your pocket pages, you're going to trim 6 panels. Each measures 4 3/8 by 6 7/8, and you will be attaching these to your pocket pages. Our Graphic 45 journaling cards measure 4 by 6. So we're going to mat them to black cardstock, and the black cardstock measures 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. To make our covers, we're going to take 2 pieces of black cardstock, and I'm using the regular size. I think it's called regular size. Anyways, they measure 8.5 by 11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim them just a little bit. We're going to hold them vertically, and we are going to trim them at 7 inches. So now we're going to join these 2 pieces of cardstock at the edge, and be sure to use good quality double-sided tape. Since I'm out of the 1/2 inch double-sided tape, I'll be using the 1/4 inch twice. Now here's a tip. When you are joining your 2 pieces of cardstock together, just peel your double-sided tape about 1 inch off from the top, and Be sure to align them to your crafting mat because that will help you greatly so you can keep your cardstock straight. And what you're going to do is you are going to line it up nicely right along there, just like you see me doing, and then you're going to be holding it down. Make sure that you hold it down so that there's no play, no movement, and as you're holding it down, you will peel your double-sided tape off until you are done. And this trick helps a lot to keep it straight, and it works each and every time. So now we're ready to add our chipboard. Now, when you are putting the spine of your mini album down, be sure to use plenty of double-sided tape, and once again it has to be good quality double-sided tape because this is pretty much going to hold a lot of the weight to your mini album, so it really needs to be strong. I like to use a ruler as a guide when I'm building the structure to my mini album. It helps me keep the chipboard straight. So as I lay the covers of the chipboard down, I ensure to leave a little bit of a gap between the spine and the covers because you want to ensure that your mini album will be able to close. So once we're done with that part, we fold along the edges, and as we fold, some of the paper fibers are broken down, and that is a good thing because it'll look nice and neat, and you just got to work it a couple of times. And I do like to use my bone folder so that it'll have a nice crisp edge. Once I finish folding along the edges, I cut the corners at an angle, and notice how I leave a small amount of space on the corners. I don't cut them all the way to the edge. Now, the reason why you want to do this is because you want to be able to pinch the corners inwards so that way the chipboard doesn't show. Now, if I wanted to, I could have cut my corners all the way to the edge of the chipboard since the chipboard is black. But a lot of people use regular colored chipboard. That way you want to be able to leave a slight space on the edge. That way your regular colored chipboard won't show through the cardstock. When applying double-sided tape to the fold-over parts, I like to add plenty of it, and the reason being is because I want to ensure that there are no air gaps or air bubbles once I fold the mini album, especially on the spine part, simply because you do have a space between the chipboards. You know, the cover, you have the spine, and then the chipboard. And if you don't ensure that you have that area fully covered, you will wind up with these gaps once you fold your mini album. And what you just saw me do is I like to pinch the corners to the mini album before I remove the tape. That way, when it's time for me to pinch them again and adhere them to the chipboard, it's easier. For the binding mechanism, I'm going to use a 12 by 12 sheet from the Flutter collection. Now, we're going to trim it down to 8 1/4 by 4 3/8. So the way that I score my binding mechanism is I begin at the half inch. So what I do is I score half an inch, half an inch, half an inch, and then I leave a quarter-inch space. And no worries, I will leave you the scoring guidelines in my blog. And once I'm done scoring my paper, I will fold it along the guidelines into peaks and valleys. And then I add double-sided tape to the back side of the peaks. Now, because I have run out of half-inch double-sided tape, I'm using my quarter-inch double-sided tape. And because I'm using the quarter-inch, what you'll see me do is apply some glue on the remaining area. Okay, so now that our binding system is done, what you see me do is I cut a snippet at the angle at both the top and the bottom of the binding system. And the reason I do this is because it will help me adhere the pages a lot better than if I was just to leave these parts as they are. Okay, so now it's time to apply the liner on the inside cover, and I'm using two papers from the Graphic 45 Floral Shoppe 12 by 12 collection. And basically what I'm doing is I am going to match them at a certain point. Now the width of this liner is 4 5/8, and what you see me do here is I'm measuring, kind of going about an inch. I'm giving it an inch so that way one paper lays over the other and there is about an inch of paper that they share. And so yeah, and then I'm going to apply double-sided tape, and I'm going to be generous with my double-sided tape to adhere this liner to the inside cover. I do want to point out, however, that when adding double-sided tape to the part that's going to go over your spine and over the gaps from where your spine meets your front and back covers, you want to be extra generous with your double-sided tape. You don't want to leave any gaps whatsoever, because if you leave gaps, then you're going to form these I don't want to call them air bubbles, but you're going to form these gaps so that way when your mini album closes, your paper will pop out, or pop up, I should say. So to remedy this, what I do is I get my hands on some double-sided sheets. They are whole sheets and they work wonderfully for me. But if you don't have double-sided sheets on hand, just go ahead and ensure that each and every single nook and cranny that's going to go over that spine and the adhering covers is covered. But before you put your paper down, you're going to want to do something about your closing mechanism. And the simplest closing mechanism that I'm using here is just the ribbon. I use some wet glue to glue it down, and right over it, you put your paper down. and I'm not necessarily antiquing it because I really do enjoy that pop of bright yellow. So now we're ready to add that beautiful Graphic 45 antique brass door knocker, and I will be using the little screw that comes with it. And what I'm gonna need to do here is I'm gonna do a little bit of measuring. I'm measuring to see exactly where I want it to go, and then I'm gonna use my crocodile to punch a hole right through that the spine. Now I'm going to do a bit of a recap on what I've done here off camera. So I went ahead and applied the door knocker, alrighty, and I did use the screw. It is one of those star, I think it's called a Phillips screw. You're going to need one of those star and screwdrivers, okay? And while you're holding it on one side, you turn the screw on the other, and so I got it there as tightly as I could, and even though it's not exactly flush, it still gives me a flat enough surface to put my binding mechanism. So let me put that to the side. And also, while I had it flat, I decided to add some corners to the front cover. As you can see, they're right there. I may embellish these later on. I don't know yet. And so this is what it's looking like. It is looking so pretty, and I'm loving the way this came out. And while I had this flat, I decided to go ahead and apply the inside, front, and the back side matted pictures. And the way I did this was, it was an easy thing. I just found a couple of blocks that I had so that I could lean this on, like these right here. And so I just set it on a couple of blocks, and it was easy peasy putting this down, and I did the same thing on the other one. That went fairly quick. And then while looking at this, I decided to use the Graphic 45 dies to make a center framed clock over here. So the dies that I've used so far in this mini album are the regular tag die and the clock die. See this beautiful ornate Graphic 45 die. And let me show you what I have die cut with these pieces. The clock hands I did in copper. I ran out of gold shiny cardstock, so I used copper instead. And over here I've used this design right here to cut this piece, and of course the circle came out of that piece, and I will be using it as so. Let me lay this flat like this. I can show you, give you a better idea of how this is going to look. So here we go. That's the top. This is going to go like so, and then we have this piece there, and then I used one of these to die cut this piece. So this is going to go like so, and then I used another piece of cardstock from this collection to cut the centerpiece. I'm just loving the way this is looking. So yeah, let's continue with this mini album. Alrighty, so now we're ready to apply our pocket pages to our binding system. Now, in scrapbooking, I have come across 100 different ways of adhering your scrapbook pages to your mini album. And to me, there's no right or wrong way. It's just you have to find a method that works best for you. And what I'm about to show you is something that works best for me. I do use glue on this, and whenever I do mini albums, my favorite type of mini album is a pocket page mini album, because these pocket pages are so super easy to adhere to the binding system. And as you watch this video, you will see why. Once all the pages have been glued down, we are ready to adhere our journaling cards. Now, keep in mind that our Graphic 45 journaling cards, the large ones, measure 4 by 6. Therefore, if you do decide to mat them, like I've done here, you will trim your mat to 6 1/4 by 4 1/4, and of course, you will adhere or glue your journaling cards onto your mat, and you center it as best as you can. So I decided that I wanted these journaling cards to be on the dimensional side. So that is why you see me applying the pop dots instead of double-sided tape. Okay, so now that I have every single matted journaling card on the page, let's go ahead and do a recap, and then I will let you all know what my next step is. So, as you know, I did use the little foam dots to elevate this piece just a little bit so that it gives you a little bit of a dimension. Okay, so at this point, if you wish, you could leave the black part, the black cardstock, as is. It would make a really nice backdrop to your pictures, or you can go a step further and add paper on it. So I went through my Graphic 45 stash, and I came across my 12 by 12 patterns and solids from a Garden Goddess, and I only have but a couple of papers left because I have used this paper stack or paper pad in several different projects. And so as you can see, I only have these two left, but check this out, I haven't used the green. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take, here's another one, I'm going to take the either the green side. I think I'm going to take the solid green side. As you can see, the solid green right along here matches the Flutter collection. Let me hold it up against that very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim a piece of cardstock, and I am going to apply it on the back of each and every single page. Okay, so let me go ahead and get started on that. Alrighty, so we are about 95% done with our mini album. Now, let me show you everything else that we're gonna do. What I decided to do was to add a flower, because right here we have about 1/2 inch of space, and we also have about 1/2 inch of space over here at the end. So what I've decided to do to occupy some of that space is to add, let me move this right over here, is to add flowers right along here. One is going to go here, and the other one is going to go either on this end or on here. I have yet to decide that. And so I'm also going to be using some of these die cut leaves to add a point of interest to these flowers. And I did cut 2 of each per side because I want this to be dimensional. So let me show you what I've used here. Graphic 45 does have flower and leaf dies, and to make these flowers I use the Graphic 45 flower dies, and to make these leaves you have a short one and a longer one. I use these two. These are also leaves. These can be used as leaves, or these can actually be used as buds, unopened flower buds. So you can use it as a bud or as a leaf. So we have these 2 that I did not use these, but the rest I did. And so I made 3 flowers, but I'm only going to be using these 2. So that's going to be for the inside, and for the outer part I'm going to use this beautiful Graphic 45 rose bouquet in French lilac, and that's going to adorn the cover of our mini album. So yeah, let's go ahead and complete this. I am so excited. I am loving how this came out. Alrighty, let's finish this up. So this concludes my Graphic 45 mini album tutorial using the Graphic 45 journaling cards. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and also follow me on my blog for more tutorials and paper crafting inspirations. Thank you for watching.